Hello and welcome to the Grandfather's Cave. In this video, we are delving into the details of character creation by looking at the races in my customized version of the Dungeons & Dragons Pathfinder game, which I call the Avern Fantasy RPG. I have added a PDF link in the description of this video that details all the class features and the lore of the races in my campaign world, which I will only touch on lightly in this video. Let's roll initiative and let's get started. Let's kick things off with a crucial aspect of character creation: racial ability modifiers. Most races come with unique ability modifiers that are added to their base ability scores. This is in addition to the +2 elective ability modifier that characters receive at first level. It's important to note that humans have their own rules for ability modifiers, depending on whether they have the mixed bloodline racial feature. But remember that 0-level characters don't get the +2 elective ability score bonus until they reach level 1. Each race comes with a set of racial features, granting them unique abilities. These features are typically extraordinary abilities that are non-magical in nature and are unaffected by anti-magic effects. It's essential to understand these features before you create your character, as they can greatly influence your character's ability and playstyle. Every race also has a native region entry. This is a place from which they originate. With your game master's permission, you might be able to create characters of a particular race from a non-native region. This can add depth to a character's backstory and motivation. Languages are an important part of role-playing games, as this determines whom you can communicate with, and characters from different races have access to various different languages. You'll gain automatic languages associated with your race. However, characters with lower intelligence scores might lose access to some of these languages. On the other hand, characters with high intelligence scores may learn bonus languages. All of this you can see in the previous video about ability scores. As you will see in a moment, I have tried to capture the essence of the classic races of fantasy literature and role-playing games. I have used the Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition and Pathfinder rules as the baseline for how abilities function as well as their power, but have tailored them to reflect the traditional versions of these as we know them from classic Dungeons & Dragons and AD&D. While I will also touch on the Gnome and Halfling races, I have tried to reimagine these races, as you will see when I explain the so-called small folk. With this disclaimer out of the way, let's take a look at our first core race. The stalwart dwarves. These sturdy, resilient beings carry the following ability modifiers. They gain a +2 to constitution and a -2 to dexterity, because the traditional dwarf is seen as hardy, rugged, but not very graceful. In the world of Avern, dwarves hail from regions like the Dastana Range, Storm Peaks, and Sword Edge Mountains. When it comes to racial features, dwarves also come with an impressive toolkit. First off, dwarves are medium-sized humanoids. However, they only have a 20-foot speed. Their stockiness and low center of gravity, however, allows them to move at full speed even while wearing armor or encumbered. Dwarves also receive the racial feature Battle Trained. This adds a +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls against giants, orcs, and goblinoids. This reflects the fact that the dwarves have been threatened by these races and been on a war footing with them for ages, and thus already from a young age, dwarves are trained to battle these ancestral enemies. Dwarves also get Night Sight. What is Night Sight, you may ask yourself? Night Sight is a replacement for both Dark Vision, or Infravision as it was called in the old editions, and for Low Light Vision. I don't want any characters to get a free pass against darkness on account of their race. On top of that, Dark Vision and Infravision have always been debated. What can one actually see in the dark with these modes of vision? And Low Light Vision seems to be clunky and half-baked. Therefore, I have come up with Night Sight, which permits some races to manage seeing in the dark better than humans, but does it in an easier way without making the threat of darkness irrelevant. Being accustomed to living in the dark, tunnels, and in underground cities, dwarves get Night Sight with a range of 60 feet. This allows them to treat dim light within a 60-foot radius as if it were normal light. Dwarves also gain the resilience feature. This adds a +2 bonus on saving throws against poison. This reflects their sturdy physique and their resistance to toxins. The next feature is stability. Dwarves gain a +2 bonus when defending against bull rush, overrun, and trip attacks due to a low center of gravity. And of course, no dwarf would be a real dwarf without stone cunning. This gives them a perception to craft and perception checks that involve stonework, and even passing within 10 feet of stonework and traps and secrets, they are allowed an immediate check to notice it. By the Avern rules, dwarves also gain the strong back ability. This confers dwarves a +2 bonus to strength and constitution, but only for the purpose to determine encumbrance values. And finally, dwarves have weapon familiarity with firearms. They treat these as martial weapons, which means that any dwarven warrior will be able to use them with proficiency. Because in Avern, dwarves have invented firearms. Aside from the use of axes, hammers, spears, and polearms, dwarves also train in the use of these firearms. Dwarves particularly favor the use of arquebuses, which are objects of pride for many dwarven soldiers. Dwarves are very reserved about these weapons and seek to keep them for themselves. However, they are known to trade more primitive thunderstaffs to their allies. Moving on to the graceful and agile elves, they boast the following ability modifiers. That is a +2 to dexterity and a -2 to constitution. They seem to be the antithesis to dwarves. They are lithe and graceful, but they are not very sturdy. In the world of Avern, elves call the regions like the Angered Forest, the Shelfindast, the Crystal Forest, and the Elderwood their homes. Their racial features reflect their affinity for nature and keen senses. To start off, elves get the Eldritch Blood ability. This ability allows elves to add a +1 bonus on power checks to cast any sort of spell. Thus, elves have the potential to become great wizards and clerics or other types of spellcasters. Elves also gain Elven Vitality. This ability is meant to reflect the Tolkien-esque vitality and longevity of the elves, and thus grants them immunity from all natural diseases. Elves also have keen senses, which adds a +2 to their perception checks, and allows them to potentially spot secret and concealed doors just by passing within 10 feet of them. In addition, this system also reflects the very traditional bond that elves have with nature, and thus they gain nature affinity, which allows them a +2 bonus on nature checks and gives them an automatic proficiency with the nature skill. And just like dwarves, elves also gain the night sight ability to a range of 6 feet. The silent step racial feature reflects their stealthy nature and allows them a +2 bonus on stealth checks. Elves gain weapon familiarity with the sword, the short sword, the longbow, and the short bow. This of course includes composite bows. And in addition, they gain the weapon mastery feature, which grants them free weapon expertise feat with one of their weapon familiarity weapons. To me, these abilities truly bring the elven characters to life in a way that emphasizes their traditional connection to nature and affinity for magic, as well as the classic D&D and Tolkien-esque flavor. Now we have come to the versatile humans, known for their adaptability and quick thinking. Humans possess no racial ability modifiers. Human ability scores are only modified by the elective ability score modifier granted to all races. However, this elective modifier is handled differently for humans. For one thing, humans may divide +2 modifier into 2 separate +1 modifiers, thereby granting humans additional flexibility. Also, humans with the mixed blood racial feature may only place that otherwise elective bonus in the dominant ability score for their non-human parent races. You might have noticed that dwarves and elves have a small age marking constitution and dexterity respectively. Those are dominant abilities for those races, and humans with the mixed bloodline must place the elective bonus on those ability scores. That means that an elf-blooded human, or half-elf as they are traditionally called, must place the elective bonus in dexterity, while a half-dwarf must place it in constitution. Not all races are eligible for mixed bloodline humans. An example are the small folk, but races other than those provided here may become options at a later point. But of course, humans also come with their own distinct racial features. Humans are fast learners. They require only 90 experience points to advance a level, instead of the normal 100 experience points. In addition, at first level, human characters may substitute one of their skills granted by their class for proficiency in one other skill of their choice. Humans also gain the versatile feature. Humans start with a bonus feat at first level. This gives them a wide range of options when it comes to character creation and development. Humans have the potential for unique mixed bloodlines, and these mixed bloodline individuals have the opportunity to choose features from their non-human parents' race. This flexibility makes humans adaptable to a multitude of situations. As seen on the table for humans, the features skilled and versatile are marked with 1 and 2 asterisks respectively. A human with a mixed bloodline may choose to substitute one or both of these abilities with racial features of their non-human parents' race. As an example, if you're making a half-dwarf human, you would have to place your +2 elective bonus in Constitution, which is marked with an H for the dwarven race. A half-dwarf character would still have the fast learner human feature, but they could change the skilled feature for the dwarf's battle-trained and stone-cutting features, or they could change their versatile feature for the stability or strong back features of the dwarves, or they could choose to trade both skilled and versatile features for the 4 dwarven features of their non-human parent. As orcs are not a playable race, I have also provided the following substitution abilities for Halforcs. Humans in Avern are known for their adaptability, and some of them bear unique heritage, especially those of the Halforc bloodline. Halforcs possess the following ability modifiers. They must place their +2 elective ability modifier in strength. In addition, they have the option to gain night sight to a range of 60 feet, in exchange for the versatile feature. They may also choose to change their skill feature for the orc ferocity feature. When a half-orc is reduced to 0 hit points, they become staggered and do not gain the unconscious and dying conditions until the end of the next turn. Thus, even when mortally wounded, a half-orc character still poses a threat to its opponents or may have the opportunity to save itself with a healing potion. Thus, the half-orc bloodline adds an element of resilience to humans, making them formidable in the face of danger. The world of Avern features 2 intriguing races, collectively known as the Small Folk. These races, once a single entity, have evolved into 2 distinct groups, the Jinx and the Urdlings. My inspiration to create the Jinx and the Urdlings stems from the fact that I often find myself viewing and treating characters of the Gnome and Halfling races as members of the same race. To me, the 2 are too much alike and fill the same ecological niche. I was considering leaving out gnomes and just having halflings, but to be honest, I find gnomes much more interesting than halflings. And looking into the old abilities of gnomes, I was reminded of their propensity for magical malfunctions, which paired with the now canonic understanding of halfling luck sparked an idea. The idea of one race where members were either blessed with great luck or with misfortune. And I worked to express this in a way that would be both new to the game and would be interesting to play regardless of whether a particular character was blessed with luck or misfortune. Ultimately, I decided to make these 2 distinct races, and in the PDF in the video description, you can read the lore I provided for these 2 new races. We begin with the clever Jinx. These diminutive beings possess the following ability modifiers. Due to their small size, they have a -2 penalty to strength and a +2 bonus to dexterity. But they are clever as well, though rash, and sometimes not very aware of how they influence the world around them. Thus, they have a +2 bonus to intelligence and a -2 penalty to wisdom. Being small size, they also gain a +1 bonus to armor class, attack rolls, and stealth skill checks. And their base speed is just 20 feet. Jinxes have the keen senses ability. This allows them a +2 racial bonus on perception checks, and they have the ability to notice a secret mechanical device or trigger just by passing within 10 feet of it. The Jinx also have magic dissonance. This is a spell resistance of 6 plus their hit die, which they cannot lower voluntarily. Thus, there's always a risk, or a chance if you want, that spells directed at a Jinx character simply do not work. Jinx also have the magical malfunction feature, which means that magical items with either a spell trigger or command word activation have a 20% chance of not working. This only affects their manipulation of magical items. But on the positive side, it also means that cursed items have a 20% chance of not affecting Jinx characters. And a cursed item that fails to affect a Jinx character automatically has its cursed nature revealed to the Jinx. Having keen senses and great intelligence also allows the Jinx a measure of resistance against illusions. Therefore, they gain the Pierce Illusion feature, which grants them a +2 bonus on saving throws against these. And the Jinx also have technological acumen. This feature gives them a +2 bonus on engineering and gives them automatic proficiency with the engineering skill. Last but not least, the Jinx also have the Way of the Machine. This feature gives the Jinx a +1 attack and damage modifier with alchemical items and gives them a +1 bonus on power checks for these items. You might say that the Jinx bring a touch of steampunk style innovation to the world of Avern, and they are equally matched by their counterparts, the Urdlings. Let's turn our attention to the luck-touched Urdlings. These enigmatic beings possess the following ability modifiers. That is a -2 to strength and a +2 to dexterity due to their small size. And unlike the Jinx, Urdlings are not very analytical or logical and therefore have a -2 penalty on intelligence. But they seem to be blessed with incredible luck and thus gain a +2 bonus to their luck ability. Just like the Jinx, they are small sized and therefore gain the same size-based penalties and bonuses as the Jinx. The first racial feature of the Urdlings is plenty of pockets. This allows them a 10% chance to find something in their pockets that they really need. However, this item can never cost more than 1 gold piece. To some degree, this ability was inspired by the comic book albums of Dusty Dabbert, and I really like the idea of Urdlings having a knack of just having the right item in the pocket. As you might remember from my previous video on ability scores, having a high luck also provides a character with additional feat points. I have not delved into the mechanics of feat points. I will do that in a later video. But it is important to keep in mind when describing some of these abilities. For instance, Urdlings gain the Stroke of Fortune ability. which allows them once per day to reroll an ability check, attack roll, or power check by spending 1 fate point. Likewise, they gain the Steal Luck feature, which gives them the ability to force an opponent to reroll one of those checks by spending 2 fate points. As Urdlings are not prone to clumsily stumbling around, they also gain the Sure-Footed feature, which grants them a +2 bonus on both acrobatics and athletic checks. And to keep playing with the fate mechanic of this system, the Urdlings also gain the feature Twist of Fate. This feature is both a game mechanic and a narrative tool that allows a player playing an Urdling to trigger an unexpected event once per gaming session. When the player declares a Twist of Fate, the Game Master introduces an unexpected plot twist. A plot twist of this kind is not meant to have mechanical benefits or penalties for either that player's character or for other characters in the game, but must introduce something new, unexpected, or an element of randomness. When a player announces a Twist of Fate, their Urdling character recovers 1 lost fate point. Lastly, Urdlings get the Well-Traveled feature. This feature grants that character a +2 bonus on skill checks with the social skill, and Urdlings always gain proficiency with the social skill. Urdlings bring an element of randomness and unpredictability to the world of Avern, and should be a lot of fun for players who like those elements. For players and dungeon masters that would rather play with the traditional gnomes and halflings, I have also provided racial features for those races. And just as I provide the rules for creating dwarves, elves, humans, and the small folk in the description of this video, you will also be able to find the information to create halfling and gnome characters with these rules that remain faithful to the classic Dungeons & Dragons and AD&D take on the halfling and gnome races. That wraps up our exploration of racial ability modifiers and racial features for dwarves, elves, humans, and the small folk, the Jinx, and the Urdlings. Each of these races brings a unique flavor to the game, allowing you to create fun and interesting characters. In the next video, I will delve into the base classes of the Avern Fantasy RPG, so stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. And also leave a comment. What is your favorite race, and is there something that I missed? Until the next time, keep slaying.